It is the Martha Zoller Show. That was Kirby Smart, and I think that was the wrong cut, but not your fault, Logan, mine. It was a Monday morning. Rich Rogers is here with me today. We were just talking about how Mar-a-Lago is the center of the universe, and you were just there. Tell us about it.
I was just there, Martha. It was amazing. I was down there with the AFP. I put the whole thing on that weekend at Mar-a-Lago. It was a 3-day event, and Donald Trump was there. Vivek was there.
Kelly Loeffler was there.
Yes, they were all there. I mean, everybody that was anybody was there. And Jesse Waters called it the center of the universe that week. The Speaker Johnson was there. Sylvester Stallone was there. Millet was there. Elon Musk was there. I mean, it was something else. And it was a time where I've never been to an event where people with that much power were just normal people. There was about 1,000 people there, but everybody understood not to just crowd them, not to just overreact, but they just got to be people.
It's like when they walk down the street in New York.
Yeah.
You know, Jackie Kennedy famously said that she moved her family to New York out of D.C. because it was the one place they could walk down the street and people wouldn't bother them all the time. Right. You know what I mean? They could just be regular people. Her kids could just go to school. They could do all that stuff. Excuse me about that. So, yeah, there are places where you can do that, right?
Yes, there are places. Well, at least you could there for that night. And the people there, they understood that. I like to say they understood the assignment. It was a red carpet event on Thursday, big gala on Thursday night. But the 2 days before that was it was just kind of celebrating the win, talking. But, like, here's the best thing that I heard at the whole 3 days. It was actually Pastor Franklin's son, Drake. Drake Franklin he serves on the development team there. And there was a faith. One of the events was a faith.
When you
breakfast.
say development team, there, what do you mean?
At
AFPI.
Got it. America First Policy Institute. He's on that team. They did a phenomenal job. And there was a faith breakfast. And at that faith breakfast, they had a service. Pastor played his saxophone and he spoke, and it was powerful. But Drake got up at the very end, and he did an amazing job. And he said this. He said, "We've been given an opportunity, not a guarantee." And that is the tone I'm hearing everywhere I go. Nobody is seeing this as like, wow, we did it. No, everybody's saying it, here we go.
So I spoke to Speaker Johnson during the Republican convention. We sat down and did an interview. You can find it on show clips on Access WDUN. And I asked him a similar question, that in my lifetime, we've given Republicans all the power 3 different times, and they haven't done what they promised to do. How do we know this is going to be different? And I think the tone is different. What you see from these cabinet picks is a very diverse ideologically group of people, diverse in lots of other ways, but more importantly, ideologically. Like you've got a labor secretary pick that Randy Weinstein likes.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got a person over, I mean, you could go through the list. It's not all MAGA people. It's not all people, AFPI people. They are a wide range of people. And what he said by that labor pick, even though if I were senator, I might not vote for her, I don't know. But the labor pick, what it says is, I want to court labor. I want to keep this relationship going. And my only real concern now of all the picks are the Surgeon General pick is kind of somebody who had a lot of really strange COVID ideas, and I know a lot of people did. Yeah. But I was a little concerned about that. I love Marty McCary at FDA. I'm a little concerned about Robert Kennedy because he's pro-choice and he's not very supportive of the Second Amendment. I'm a little concerned that that's like the biggest department next to defense. It's maybe bigger than defense. I'm a little concerned about that, but I'm not concerned about the makeup of the entire group of choices.
I think he went after Main Street America. He said, these are real people with real experience. There's nobody better than Pam Bondi for that. There's nobody better for the Secretary of Agriculture than Brooke Rollins. I could go through the list. Doug Collins at Veterans Affairs, person after person. People say they're disruptors, and that's a term that people are using, but they don't disrupt to just disrupt. And I'll tell you something else. When you run like President Trump did, like assuming you're going to win, with the thought that he's been having, these aren't just things he's thought of overnight. These are things he's been thinking of all along. And then you add the last minute bonus of an Elon Musk and a Vivek, on what they're going to be doing. I can't wait for them to start publishing that list of the most crazy they're going to rank, like, I think 1 through 50, the most crazy expenditures that got approved, and then just expose them.
Well, and Tom Coburn used to do that. Senator Tom Coburn, he called it the pig book, I think is what it was. But my big thing that I think we need to do right off the bat that would save the most amount of money is there's something between 80 and 100,000 federal jobs open right at this moment. The average cost of a federal job is about $125,000 between the salary and the benefits and that kind of thing. Is that just do what Sonny Perdue did when he was at the height of the recession. Zero them all out. Make the departments reorganize based on the people that they have.
Yeah.
And then if you need to add some people back, because I'm not saying in those 100,000 jobs, there might not be some things we really need, okay? But you can start out by reducing that number. And I had a U.S. Senator say to me, well, what do you mean it would reduce the cost? I said, because the money for that job is still in the budget. Even though it's not been spent yet, it's still there. And if we don't clean this budget up, that's something Sonny did also at the height of the recession. He went through all the allocated monies in the state budget and made sure they were all zeroed out so you knew really what you were dealing with.
That's right.
I'm willing to bet, while I don't want to give these overspenders of both parties a bone, okay, I'm willing to bet there might be $1 trillion in kind of puffed up spending that's never going to happen out there.
Exactly.
That's still showing up.
Yes.
Okay, but it needs to go away. Heck, Free Chapel's got a big budget. You probably have to do the same thing every now and then.
I mean, literally, we go through the financial audit every single year by the highest rated auditing organization for religious organizations. We count every penny. We're very careful. We're very frugal.
But I bet if you allocate money to something in the budget, and then it turns out you don't spend it, you don't leave that money in the budget.
No.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of nonprofits.
That's right.
It's a zero budget thing there. Yeah. One of the things that I heard Vivek say is he said, we're not going to reduce the workforce. They're going to reduce themselves when we simply make them come to work.
Yes.
When we simply all across America, whether it's in agriculture, that's like that's over $1 billion budget with people in every county. There's other departments where there are people all over the nation working from home. They've been working from home for 4 years. They never come to work. There's no accountability. You just saw what happened at the Pentagon when they can't account for billions and billions of dollars for the 7th year in a row. And that's going to stop. People aren't opposed to Ukraine or against Ukraine. They're against giving billions and billions of dollars and then being said, we can't tell you where that money was spent. And that's what I love about Elon Musk and Vivek. They're going to expose that. They're going to end that. And I think we're going to find at least $1 trillion of money that we were going to spend that we don't for 2000. And we got a $2 trillion deficit right now.
Rand Paul has a good idea every now and then. He's a little too
he's out there
hardline for me sometimes. But he said you take the 2019 budget, which, by the way, was $1 trillion deficit, okay, or $900 billion deficit.
Mm-hmm.
You would adjust it for inflation. That brings you to about $5.4 trillion. Okay? $5.4 trillion is about $2 trillion less than what we spent this year. So he's about right about that. That if you take all the COVID money out,
right.
I mean, there's no reason why there should be COVID money. And Brian Williams, I played a clip at the beginning of the program. He made a great point. He said, when you're telling average working class people that, that are paying now, whatever for a dozen eggs, that they're wrong. And then you're bringing illegal immigrants in here and giving them more than what you're giving those people that are going to work every day.
Right.
That's created a problem. It was a disconnect.
Yeah.
And the Democrats I've talked to still don't get it. They think they got to have a meeting among elites and they need to change their message. And
let's let them just keep thinking that.
That's right. That's right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to keep talking with Rich. And also, we are going to talk a little bit about what Free Chapel's doing for Thanksgiving and remind you about the great Thanksgiving dinner that's going to be going on just around the corner. We'll be back. It is the Martha Zoller Show, and Rich Rogers is here with me today. And also want to remind folks that on Thanksgiving Day from 12:30 to 2 at 996 Athens Street in Gainesville. There will be the community Thanksgiving meal that's been going on for 12 years. If you want to volunteer and help with that, they still have opportunities to do that. You can contact Kathy Amos at 678-617-1413. And Rich, obviously, Free Chapel does a lot of this kind of work too. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up at Free Chapel.
If there's a church in America that does more worldwide and local than us, I couldn't tell you what it is. I'm so proud to be a part of Free Chapel, where I've attended since 2003, and I've been on staff since 2005. We just gave away 242,000 pounds of chicken across all of our campuses here in Georgia. We're in the middle of something called our Vision Series right now. We do this every year in November, where we go to the people and say, listen, we have some dream ideas here that we would love to make happen, and it's that month where we give above and beyond the tithe, and our people always respond. And we're doing things at several of our local homeless shelters and outreaches for people, food outreaches, living spaces, those kinds of things. We've built some things. We work with several of the addiction recovery programs that are here in the local area. So many things that we're doing here locally. And then, of course, we're doing so much in Israel. Literally in all those places along the border with Gaza there, we're building bomb shelters that are become like a part of every single home. It's a safe room in every single home. We're at the Dream Center in California, where we're sponsoring their human trafficking compound there. We're in Haiti with over 240,000 meals a month, and where it's just out of control right there, but we're still managing to help people. And so this is, like I said, our Vision Series a month, and also lots of really cool things every Sunday the month of December. If you just want to get in the Christmas spirit, we've got it for you there. We have toy drives and all that kind of stuff.
So how long have y'all been out in the LA campus?
We have a campus in Orange County since 2007. I was the first campus pastor out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was funny because I used to watch Real Housewives all the time.
Yeah.
And then I was watching one time, and Jensen Franklin was on the Real Housewives of Orange County, I think it was. And so I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the changes that have been happening in California in that time that you've been there. Just some thoughts on that.
Well, I'm actually in a meeting later this week with a person that has the ability and the means to really make a difference, and he wants to talk about California. He says I want to see us flip California in the next 4 years. And if you saw the trends, especially along the whole right side of the state and even down into Orange County, there's a lot that's happening there. If you actually are in California, I'm in California all the time. I'm telling you, I've been in California in 3 election cycles: 2016, 2020, and 2024. Everywhere you go are these massive rallies, and then you see the vote and you go, that just doesn't sound right. But that also brings up the Electoral College, because when you look at the map, you see red all across the map, except in these population centers. But those population centers, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, exactly, I'm looking at right here. But these population centers literally could almost, when it comes to the majority, could decide what the rest of America does, were it not for the Electoral College.
Oh, and that's why I always will support the Electoral College. I was showing Rich, I'm a big fan of the Ruthless podcast, who their language is a little salty sometimes, but they're really funny and they're good.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten these napkins made, and I bought a bunch of them that are stuff you can use for the holidays. And it says, "Merry Christmas, America," with all the red counties. And then it flips over, and "Happy Holidays" with the blue counties. And it's stark when you look at this. This is kind of the George W. Bush map on steroids. You remember that map that George W. Bush had? Or
Ronald Reagan.
And Ronald Reagan on steroids. And I just think it's so interesting to see. And what you're even seeing is in New York and L.A. that there are shifts going on. New York's within 10 points. I mean, California's still about 20 points because the population is so strong in L.A. But there's been a huge shift, like a 10-point shift all across the board.
What hurt California is the millions and millions of conservatives that left California.
Well, and I tell you, you talk about that. They almost lost a seat in this last session. They lost 1 million people, but because every county, every state gets one representative, whether they have the population or not. You're not dividing up 435, you're dividing up 375,
Yeah.
okay? So because of that, they didn't lose a seat. But they will this time, and they could lose 4, and those 4 would go to Texas. It looks like if the trends stay the way they are.
Right. And that's what, in your last segment, that's one of those states that's still counting votes. You
Yeah.
know, it's
If you're still counting votes, you're cheating, folks.
There's
If
a
you're
not-
still counting votes at this time, you're cheating.
there's not a lot of trust in the election system in the state of I'm from California. I consider myself a Californian until the day I die. There's not a lot of trust in election integrity in the state of California.
What part did you grow up in California?
I grew up in Orange County and Los Angeles County. I grew up in
Okay.
Los Angeles County most of my adult life in Orange County. So I've been in both of those.
So my husband and his family moved to Orange County in 1971 and moved to Yorba Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like at that golden time in California. I mean, they lived in a beautiful neighborhood. They had orange groves behind them. I mean, they spent $65,000 for the house that they bought, which was a lot of money in 1971, but it wasn't like unaffordable. Do you know what I mean? That house in 10 years went from $65,000 to about $450,000. And then, because if you remember what interest rates were like in the early 80s, they self-financed.
Yeah.
And the person defaulted, and so they got the house back and they sold it again. So it was like that house was like a money printing machine. But it was this golden time in California.
Ronald Reagan again.
Yes, Ronald Reagan again.
He was the governor
Yes.
during those times, and not just
middle class people
Yes.
could make it.
That's
Yes,
right.
there were the wealthy starlets and all that kind of stuff, like there always are in places like California and New York. But a middle class family, and lots of them were doing this. They were moving to California because you could get a great job with a defense contractor, with all kinds of manufacturing, and it was good jobs. And you could have a great life with your family.
My mom worked at Lockheed for 38 years. I grew up in a community, Rockwell, Lockheed, Edwards Air Force Base, all those right in that general area right there. But it was just common sense policies, common sense politics, common sense living. Like I said, you could work a blue collar job and raise a family in a nice home. And that's the America we need to get back to. I can take you to California right now. You'll pay $5 to $6 a gallon in gas, and you've been doing that for a long time.
Right.
I mean, a long time. And so it's just gotten so expensive, so out of control. But when you have a state where it's a super majority for decades, for years and years and years, you see what extreme. Go take some pictures of San Francisco right now. You won't even recognize it.
So my son has a job where he travels around the country working in cloud security. I don't even know what he does. But recently he's had conferences in San Francisco and San Diego. And he said, Mom, I can't, you're not even going to believe it. You come out in the morning and they're scrubbing feces off the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And same thing in San Diego, in the downtown areas. That it's just a terrible, horrible place right now. But it's going to get better. And because I believe in things coming back. And I think we're ushering in an age of conservatism because J.D. Vance is going to do a great job.
He is. Remember, folks, we're given an opportunity, not a guarantee. Let's go.
We're going to take a break. Thanks for being with me. Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you, Martha. Happy Thanksgiving.
Lots more to come right here on The Martha Zoller Show.